Well, we just finished week 2 of the pantry challenge, and I am here to give you an update on how things went for me. If you remember from last week, my kitchen was basically destroyed because I had a dishwasher that leaked, and that leak got under my flooring, and then it ruined my kitchen island. And then they came in on Monday and they ripped up the flooring, put all these fans and dehumidifiers, and had tubes running in my sink, so I was unable to use my kitchen on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday last week was when I recorded my last week's video. So I recorded it Wednesday morning, just like today. Today is Wednesday morning. It is January 15th. So it is exactly 1 week later. I am going to give you an update on things that happened and our food and pantry challenge. If you didn't watch last week's video, I'll post that up above. I have some video of the damage and things like that. At the end of that video, I was a little concerned about how I was going to use my kitchen during this pantry challenge. So it's a little uncomfortable to use because obviously you have to watch where you walk. Not only that, there are these foam pads that are under some of the laminate in front of our kitchen sink, and that's where I do the dishes. And so how it's kind of pushed out made it very uncomfortable for me to do dishes, like I was standing further away than I normally would. So that was uncomfortable. I left them there because when they left last week, Wednesday, we thought that was a little soon for them to take out all of the dehumidifiers and fans, because they originally said like 3 to 5 days. What ended up happening is they ended up coming back on Friday last week, and they ended up putting another dehumidifier and fan in our basement that was under the kitchen. So they had some there last week, but what they determined was when they had a more senior technician come out, he thought that that was a little too quick for that to be dry, and there was an area that's under our island that the water leaked, but the island is on top of it. So that area we couldn't get to upstairs, but we could get to it in the basement. The thought was to dry it from underneath our kitchen, basically in our basement. And our basement is not finished, so that makes it a little bit easier from that perspective. So that's what they did. So they put in another dehumidifier and fan, and that was on Friday, and then they let it all weekend, and then on Monday they came back out. That was 2 days ago, Monday. They came back out and tested it and said that it's dry. Now we start the process of picking flooring and having a cabinet maker come out to see if he can recreate our cabinet. So the house was brand new when we bought it, and we just moved in. It was built, and then we moved in. It wasn't that we ever created anything in our house. We could potentially change our island a little bit. I'm hoping to add some additional storage on the back part where we sit at the island. The cabinet maker that will be making this cabinet is on vacation this week, so hopefully next week, depending upon his availability, we'll be able to meet with him and then get some ideas on that. So our general contractor did say we'd probably end up having to be out of our house for a week. We'll see when that happens, and I'll keep you updated. Week 2 of the pantry challenge was interesting because of the kitchen aspect, and I also wasn't feeling well. I wasn't ill, as in sick like a cold or a flu, but I was very run down. In fact, one night I slept for 14 hours, and I think the night before that it was 10 or 11 hours. So something was going on. I just wasn't feeling well. I also haven't been as hungry, and also I felt a little nauseous. I was not really sure what was going on. I did listen to my body. I allowed it to rest. I did have a procedure done on my neck and back in December that they drew a lot of blood for that procedure, and I am slightly anemic anyways. So I was taking some iron supplements for a couple weeks after my procedure, and then I stopped taking them. And the fact that I was so exhausted, I thought, you know what, maybe I need to start taking my iron supplements again. So I have started taking them again, and my energy is up, which is good. I'm not sure if the nausea is due to the iron supplements because I take them on an empty stomach for better absorption. So all of that to say, I'm not really sure what's going on. My neck and my back both went out, and when my neck goes out, I get terrible headaches, and I couldn't make the pain go away with Tylenol. And due to the procedure I had, it was called PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. I had these injections. You can't take anti-inflammatory, so I couldn't take like an ibuprofen. So basically I was stuck taking Tylenol, which didn't help, which told me that my neck was out. But I had to wait till I could get into my chiropractor for an adjustment. And then on Sunday, I was showering, and when I was bending over to wash my leg, I felt this pop, and then I felt immediate pain in my low back, and my pelvis rotated in a way that was extremely painful. I knew that I needed to get in the chiropractor, and that pain from that and being very uncomfortable, I needed help like putting on my pants and my underwear. It was very uncomfortable. So I didn't get much sleep on Sunday. And when I saw my chiropractor Monday, she adjusted me. I'm still sore and tender. And so I think I need to go back in again. I do have a chiropractor appointment scheduled. The pain also could have to do with my nausea because my pain was pretty high. And those, like I said, the Tylenol wasn't cutting it. I did put a lidocaine patch on my low back on Sunday, but I was still in a lot of pain. So I think that has something to do with it. How does this relate to the pantry challenge, you're probably wondering? I don't normally give you this much personal information, but given the fact that the kitchen is in chaos, you do get to see a little bit of my personal life. How this all relates is my pain was so high and my energy was low. My appetite was minimal. Like I wasn't hungry. In fact, some of the times I ate just because I was nauseous, not even because I was hungry. The day that I slept 14 hours, I was just exhausted. I didn't feel good. My husband's like, is there some comfort food that I could get you? I'm like, no, I got food in the fridge. And he's like, no, just, is there some comfort food that would make you feel better? And so I decided, sure. So I sent him out to get me some pho. If you don't know what pho is, it's a soup with broth and rice noodles and meat. Cilantro, bean sprouts, and lime. And it's pretty good. And so I did send him out to get some of that. That was the one thing that I did allow myself to do. I was in bed all day. I was in pain and didn't feel good. So I allowed that to happen this week, and that's just real life. But the rest of the stuff I have made from home here, and I'm going to show you that now. So let's get into it. So week 2 started for me on Wednesday, January 8th. That was the day that I was leaving the hotel. If you watch my last video from last week, I told you a little bit about that we got to stay at a hotel on Tuesday night because our kitchen was unusable. Because we got to stay in that hotel, Wednesday morning, I had the breakfast from the hotel. It was free, it was included. And my husband did take some egg bake that I had made him on Sunday night for the week. I made him that. So he took that to work and had that for breakfast. That night we were back in our house because remember, they did remove all of the fans and everything in the kitchen. The other thing is I was working late this week with my remote arbitration, which was in California. So for me, the time difference was a couple hours later. And that night, my husband just had a pizza that he had in the freezer. I just had some, like my sister made us some Oreo balls and some peanut butter balls at Christmas, and they were in the fridge. And so I had that with some milk. I had some like little snack baggies that we had, and I had 1 or 2 hard-boiled eggs is what I ate from the kitchen that I had made. I didn't eat a lot. Again, I wasn't feeling 100%. I just kind of was more of a snacking thing of stuff that we had in the house. So that evening, my husband took out 2 large pork butt shoulder roasts. They're about 9 pounds each. He took them out of our freezer, so that's great because they're pretty big, and unfortunately I didn't get any picture of them. So he took them out because on Friday he had a work Christmas party to go to, and he was going to make pulled pork for the Christmas party, so he's going to smoke it. Then on Thursday I had my black bean soup, the rest of it. I had that for lunch and for dinner, and in that I mixed in some of the leftover Mexican. So if you remember, on Monday we went to a Mexican restaurant because we didn't have a working kitchen. My husband had some leftover rice and refried beans, and then we ordered some guacamole. There's a little bit of guacamole left. So I ate that up, and I mixed the refried beans and the rice just cold. I put it into my soup and it kind of warmed up, and that is what I had in my black bean soup. So I had the additional rice and refried beans in there. I had that for lunch, and then again I had it for dinner. I'm not sure what my husband had that night, but it was something from in the house. Then on Friday, the mitigation team came back out. They looked at the flooring under our kitchen in our basement and said, yes, we have to put that stuff back out. So they put out the dehumidifier and the fan, and they did that. That was the day my husband worked from home, and while he did that, he made this pork butt roast. He smoked them during the day. So for lunch that day, this was the day I wasn't feeling good. I was really exhausted. I ended up making that pumpkin that I had canned that didn't seal. So I had 1 jar of pumpkin from last week, and I ended up taking that out, draining it, putting it in a container into my oven, and on top of that I added pear mincemeat. Now pear mincemeat is another canning recipe that I make that is from the Ball Blue Book. It doesn't have any meat in it. It is pear and lime and ginger and raisins and things like that. There's, I think, cinnamon in it as well. It's kind of a sweet, savory kind of thing. And so what I do is I put that on top of the pumpkin, and then I put it in my oven and then heated it up to 350 and let it heat up for a while. When I took it out of the oven, then I put in some cranberries that I still had in my fridge, canned cranberries, and then I topped it with some feta cheese, and that is what I had for my lunch. So I was able to use up my pint of pumpkin that didn't seal, and I was able to use up almost all of my pear mincemeat. I've been working on that, so I probably have another meal like that I need to make. Now typically with that meal I will use an acorn squash, and I'll cut it in half, I'll hollow it out, I'll bake the the acorn squash, that whole thing, and I typically do that, but because I had the pumpkin that didn't seal, I thought that was an easy way to make it. I did have that pulled pork for dinner. I literally just ate pulled pork. I didn't even have it on a plate or with anything else. He just saved some for us, put it in a bowl for our fridge, and as it was cooling, I was just eating this pulled pork. So it's just he and I. It wasn't a big deal, but I was just eating the pulled pork. It was very, very good. So I had Friday night. I didn't end up going to my husband's Christmas party. I just didn't feel good. I was so exhausted, and I basically was in bed all day. And plus I had a headache that wouldn't stop. So I took the Tylenol, it wouldn't stop. The pain was just too much. So I slept then 14 hours then. And then Saturday was the day that my husband said, let me get you some comfort food. So he got me pho for takeout, and I ended up having that for lunch. He ended up making like some cinnamon rolls for breakfast, and I ate one of those, like the little Pillsbury ones. I ate one of those. And then for dinner that night, he had a venison roast sandwich, and then he ended up having to rehydrate more mushrooms and then cut up some onions, and he used up some of the au jus. So he did that on Saturday. And then Sunday, I was like, okay, I rested 2 days for quite a few hours. I have stuff I have to get done. I have things to do. I am going to do this. I get up Sunday morning and I take a shower, and then that's when I threw my back out in the shower. I had more pho, leftover pho. I finished up the potato salad that I had made last week. And then Tucker had an egg bake, and he had pulled pork. And so that was on Sunday. Monday, that's when the mitigation team came back out. They pulled everything from the basement, said you're good to go. So my husband had the last of the egg bake. Again, I didn't have any of it. Typically, I usually have one serving, but I just didn't this time. I'm glad that he likes it and he eats it. That day, he had some pulled pork and a venison roast sandwich. He actually finished the venison roast sandwich. If you're noticing, a lot of these things we're having again and again, and that's because, if you have a lot of it, or if he doesn't eat some or I don't eat some, it just takes a long time to eat it. So a lot of times we're eating the same thing because it's just the two of us. We don't have chickens, we don't have an animal to give it to, and it's just the two of us. So you'll see a lot of these same things again and again. So then on Monday, I just ate pulled pork. I just literally heated it up on the stove. I ate it out of the frying pan. A lot of times I will literally eat standing up when it's just me and we're not sitting down to dinner. So when I'm eating alone, I usually stand up a lot in the kitchen and eat. And that is exactly what I did. And I think the fact that our kitchen is in disarray doesn't make it any better. That was the day I was feeling especially nauseous. For dinner, I just didn't really want to have anything, but my husband suggested having some buttered toast. So that is what I had. So I ended up having 3 pieces of buttered toast. And then later on that night, I ended up having a pantry snack. I think with all the sleeping, my schedule is off, so I have to get back into a routine. Then we come to yesterday, which was Tuesday, January 14th, when my husband ordered me pho on Saturday. I ordered extra noodles and extra meat because if you remember last week, I canned Thai coconut squash soup and I had extra broth left. And so I drank some of that extra broth right away. And then I had a quart of that broth left. We thought that would be really good with pho. I had the extra noodles ordered and the extra meat so that I could basically use that broth with that on Tuesday, which was yesterday. I did end up combining my broth with the noodles and meat that was left over. Then I ended up having that for lunch. And I do have enough left for another meal or two, so I will finish that hopefully today and tomorrow. For dinner last night, I was wanting to use up something in our freezer from upstairs. We have this bag of garlic chicken pasta from Bird's Eye. So I took that out. I knew there was enough for about 2 meals in there and I just wanted to get it out. So I cooked it all up. Last night my husband was gone, so I was at home alone. And so I just made this garlic chicken pasta. I added some mushroom broth that we had in the fridge that my husband used when he reconstituted those dehydrated mushrooms to make his venison sandwich the night before. I ended up using some of that to put in the pan to steam this and get absorbed by the food. If you ever get this garlic chicken pasta from Bird's Eye, it is nice, but it's not very flavorful in my opinion. Like it needs a little bit more. So I added some lemon pepper seasoning on it. I added some queso fresco on top because remember I had queso fresco in my fridge and I'm trying to find a way to use it. And I would have done like a parm, but I had this queso fresco that I kind of wanted to use. So I just put that on top and I ate that. And so I do have another serving of that left that I'll either have today or tomorrow. It just depends. That is where we were at for week 2 of the pantry challenge. Apologize if this was long. I just want to give you guys the update. And this is again end of week 2. We are starting week 3 today. For me, the weeks have been starting on Wednesday, so today is Wednesday, January 15th, and it is starting week 3 of the Pantry Challenge. I hope you all are doing well with your Pantry Challenge. Please let me know how you're doing in the comments below. Please let me know if you have any suggestions or tips for me. And until next week, good luck on your Pantry Challenge.